Okay, so we'll start that over again. Welcome, everybody. Please remember to keep yourselves muted. I may, in fact, have to mute you, and it's just a procedural method rather than anything personally. I'm Claudia Kane. I'm the director at Scoville Library. I am a little distracted admitting people, but we're very pleased tonight to welcome Dr. Rachel Geller, who will tell us, hopefully, everything there is to know about cats. And I'm assuming that most of us are here because there are cats in our lives, and many of them may be joining us during this Zoom call. But Dr. Geller is a cat behaviorist, a pet chaplain. There goes the lightning. Okay, a fear-free shelter consultant and humane education specialist. And she'll be giving advice for developing and maintaining cat and owner harmony, providing you with insight on your cat's behavior, and will answer all of your questions. So she specializes in solving cat behavior problems, and she works with empathy and guidance to help people understand your cats. So as I interpret this, this is not going to be a talk about how to control your cat to suit you, but I may be wrong on that. The idea, I think, is that she works with people and their cats to help all of us live in harmony. And if she could do this for the whole world, I'm sure we would all be very, very grateful. But, and she also has a book called Saving the World One Cat at a Time. And for 1 week following this program, when you purchase the book, and I will put a link to how to do that in the chat, all the proceeds are going to benefit the Little Guild Animal Shelter in West Cornwall. So I am really pleased to have Dr. Geller. She will talk to us for about 15 minutes, and then she will take all of your questions. And I do ask that you put your questions in the chat, and I will relay them to her, and then she can answer them for the whole group. So I'm sure many of us have the same questions, and we'll all benefit from hearing her insight. So I hope that we can get to all of them. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Dr. Geller. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'm a cat behavior counselor. And as a cat behavior counselor, I'm often asked, why do you spend so much time helping cats? Why aren't you helping people? But the truth is, whenever you help cats, you are also always helping people. People tend to assume that if a cat has a behavior problem, the problem must be with the cat. Most of the time, this simply is not true. Most of these cats are not difficult, and they really don't have behavior problems at all. The fact is, their humans have problems, and this creates problems for the cats. Whenever a human being has a serious problem, and this can be anything from illness, bereavement, job loss, divorce, a pandemic, you'll often find a cat suffering at the end of it. So you really never help a cat without also helping a person. Yes, I help a lot of people whose cats won't use a litter box, cats who scratch on everything except for that beautiful scratching post that you bought. And I help people with what to do when you bring home Fluffy as a companion for Puffy. And guess what? It turns out Puffy didn't want a new brother or sister all that much. But I also help people in distress. For example, a woman recently contacted me to say that she would have to surrender her cat. She started off the conversation by saying she was sure there was nothing that I could do. You see, she had cancer and several small children. She was terrified, exhausted, and overwhelmed. Amidst all of this, she had an older cat, and she was feeling bad because she felt she couldn't give the cat enough attention. This woman and I talked for a very long time. I listened to her describe her situation. Eventually, I said, your children are stressed because you're sick, but they're going to feel even more stress if they lose the family cat at the same time. I also reminded her that cats are fundamentally loyal, caring, and incredibly perceptive animals, something a lot of you probably already know. If her cat didn't get the same amount of attention for a period of time because this woman was being treated for cancer, well, that's okay. The cat is part of the family. I explained to her that her cat would surely prefer to give up some attention temporarily, rather than be separated from her family permanently. Sometimes people just need to be reassured. By then, the woman was crying. She said to me, "Do you really think it would be okay for me to keep my cat?" What I learned was that the woman really didn't want to give up her cat after all. She wanted to do the right thing. She just wasn't sure what that was. She ended up keeping her cat, and I promised my help and support. Sometimes people just need to be reassured. And this is what I try to do every day. Work to solve cat behavior problems so people don't have to sacrifice the cats who they love. Now, I do a lot of cat behavior counsels every year. Between 900 and 1,000 cat behavior cases I solve every year. And I do this all completely free of charge. It's my personal mission in life that I never want there to be a financial barrier preventing people from keeping their cats in their homes when it's due to a behavior problem. When you do that many cat behavior counsels, you come across a lot of interesting things and you notice a lot of patterns. So I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight a couple of interesting things that a lot of people think. First, cats do not act out of revenge or spite with their pee or poop. Oh, I hear tales of woe. She peed on my bed to teach me a lesson. She peed on my laundry because she was mad at me. She peed on my luggage because I went on vacation. She peed on my shoes because she doesn't like my new boyfriend. Well, maybe that one could be true. Cats are really good judges of character. But I want everyone seriously to know that cats don't pee inappropriately or don't use a litter box out of spite or revenge. Now, I understand that it's really easy to assign human qualities to cats because they really do share so many of our emotions. But spite and revenge are qualities we humans can proudly call our very own. Second, that big basket of toys you have sitting in your living room that you throw about on the floor every once in a while, that is not what I mean when I say play with your cat. Throwing a bunch of solo toys on the floor is not play. With solo toys, the cat has to be both the predator and the prey. And this really is not very realistic or enticing to your cat. So many times people say to me, "My cat doesn't like to play." Oh, my cat doesn't play. My cat is lazy. But the problem is we don't properly take the time to play with our cats and trigger the cat's prey drive. What you want to do is to play with your cat with a fishing pole type toy and do this about 15 minutes twice a day. Keep in mind that play is supposed to simulate hunting. For your cat, the most important part of the game is the capture. It's the captures that provide all of the reward and satisfaction for your cats. So many people think that the point of the game is about how long you can keep the toy away from the cat. But the truth is, you want to let your cat have multiple captures. Your cat will feel empowered and happy with the physical, tangible success that comes from watching, stalking, pouncing, and ultimately catching. The capturing is the most rewarding and fun part for your cat. Stay with the game for a little while. Intersperse the chasing and pouncing with plenty of captures. Now, what I want you to do is to finish the game with one last final successful juicy capture. Let your cat sink her teeth or claws into that toy. And to make it a perfect play experience, give your cat a little treat that simulates feasting after the hunt and capture. When you follow the capture with a treat, your cat's brain will release those feel-good chemicals, and your cat's going to feel like king or queen of the territory. So this brings me to my next point. Let's talk about laser pointers. I really wish pet supply stores did not sell laser pointers as toys. They were developed to be used for PowerPoint presentations in the office, and that is where they should stay. laser pointers are actually the cause of so many behavior problems in cats. Think about it. Your poor cat is on a futile chase, pointlessly trying to catch that little red dot that can never be captured. And remember what I said, the captures are the important part of play. Think of your cat, certain of a sure catch. Your cat pounces, only to find there is nothing there between his paws or in his mouth. I think it's a terrible thing to do to a cat. But really, laser pointers create frustration and anxiety in cats. The exact opposite of what you want to do when you play with your cat. It also creates problems between companion cats because the laser pointer will make the cat want to get a capture in some other ways that may not be acceptable, such as pouncing on the other cat. Remember that cats expect a catch and kill after play. So a cat who is teased with a laser pointer may try to attack, bite, or scratch a companion cat, or even the humans in the household. Many times when people contact me because their cat is biting or scratching, I often find out that they are using a laser pointer to play with their cat. Remember, when you use a laser pointer, it's really an unwinnable game for your cat. And your cat's going to need to redirect the stress and anxiety some way. So typically these ways are more aggressive and destructive than most cat owners would like. So my final thoughts on that are play smart, play safe, and play in a way that satisfies your cat's natural hunting muscles by using a fishing pole type toy to play with your cat. Next, cats do not want privacy when they go to the bathroom. Cats do not want or need privacy when they use their litter boxes. Now, I know covered boxes are popular with people, and we think covered litter boxes from a human perspective provide privacy, but we're placing a human need onto our cats. The biggest drawback to a covered litter box is it greatly reduces your cat's ability to escape and to have a clear visual field around the box. When your cat is using the litter box, she is in a vulnerable position. So when they're in the litter boxes, they want to be able to see all around them. They want to be able to see any potential opponents or invaders when they're in that litter box. And your cat wants to know that she can escape should an opponent appear. With a covered box, your cat can't see around her, and worse, should there be an invader, her only means of escape is directly into that invader space. Not very good for your cat. And I want everyone to note that it's important to realize that these opponents or invaders can be real or imagined. Even only cats in a household have this need to have a clear visual field and ample warning time around that litter box. So toss the cover from your box and you'll have a happier cat. So how did I get here? How did I get to this point? A lot of people often wonder this. Well, my parents' view on pets, cats or otherwise, could not have been more different. My dad grew up in Dorchester, Massachusetts. He lived in a small, crowded apartment that his immediate family shared with his extended family. The apartment did not allow pets, not that there was room, and they were poor. They were barely able to feed themselves. On the other hand, my mother grew up in a single family home where pets were loved as part of the family. Later in their marriage, my parents were forced to strike a bit of a compromise about pets in their home when their firstborn, me, seemed to have discovered an endless parade of cats in the neighborhood who really needed me and who somehow ended up at our house. I deeply loved these cats and mourned their loss when one died. And at some point, I began to memorize the names and faces of all the cats who had lived, loved, and then died at our house. One day I asked my dad, who was a rabbi, whether all those cats would meet me in heaven and whether they would recognize me and I them. He assured me that they would, that the cats would remember me and I would remember them forever. Thinking back, the lesson I learned wasn't so much about the cats, but it was about my father's assurances that relationships with our cats last, that our relationships with our companion cats have meaning. Our relationships with our cats are enduring. They are important. And to me, this meant that they were worth saving. So here I am. Thank you to the Scoville Memorial Library for having me today. And thank you to the Little Guild Animal Shelter for being my shelter partner for this talk. 100% of the proceeds from my book, Saving the World One Cat at a Time, are going to go to the Little Guild Animal Shelter for the following week. So from today until Wednesday, June 2nd, I'll be giving 100% of all profits to the Little Guild Animal Shelter for my book sales. So please buy my book. You'll learn about cats and you will help the Little Guild continue their life-saving mission. So my name is Rachel Geller. I'm a certified cat behaviorist, and I'm going to take all of your cat behavior questions now. Thank you.
Okay, so like I said, if you put your questions in the chat, and I will read them to Dr. Geller, and I did get a couple by email, so I think we'll start with that. The first one is, I am talking about Fluffy and Puffy. I think I got that right, but I am considering adopting another cat and would like advice as to whether I should adopt a female or a male, if at all. I adopted a year-old male tortie in February, and I'm wondering if it would be better to adopt a male or female companion for her and me. Can you offer any advice as to sex and age of the cat? My tortie seeks a lot of attention, and I'm wondering if another cat would make her happier or jealous. And thank you for any advice you may give.
Okay, so I do find from experience that the gender of the cat really doesn't make a big difference. The cat's going to be spayed or neutered, so gender really doesn't make a difference. What does make a difference is temperament, the type of cat, the personality of the cat, and the age of the cat. So my first piece of advice is to adopt a cat who is 4 years old or older. And the reason I say this is that cats go through social maturity between the ages of 2 and 4. And they go through a lot of changes between those years. Think of like the human, adolescence or puberty. There's what comes up the other side isn't exactly how it began. So by age 4, though, a cat's personality is set in stone. So what you see is what you get. So when you go to the shelter, you can ask, does this cat like other cats? Does this cat need to be a dominant cat? Is this cat more submissive? Is this cat playful? Is this cat more assertive? Is this cat more needy? All of those questions that, thinking about your own personality, your own cat's personality, and what would mesh, you can ask the people at the shelter. And if the cat is 4 years old or older, those personality traits and characteristics that the cat has are going to stay. So that's going to be your best bet. Think about, what type of personality your cat is. If your cat has a very dominant and more aggressive personality, you might want a more submissive cat. If your cat is very territorial, again, you might want a more submissive cat. If your cat is super laid back, you may not want a cat who's overly playful. So think about the traits of your cat, bring those traits to the shelter, and just make sure that you get a cat who's age 4 or over. And that's going to be your best bet to having your cats get along. The second thing you want to do is make sure you go through a very slow, structured introduction process. You really want to make sure that your resident cat doesn't feel like her territory is up for grabs, because that's very unsettling for a cat. And you want to make sure the newcomer doesn't feel like she's being plopped into enemy territory. So even though your cats might be a good match, you still want to do a very slow, structured, incremental introduction process, and that will lay the foundation for your cats to definitely be tolerant of each other.
Great, thank you. And I volunteer at the Little Guild, and I know that when they have cats, they put as much information as they can, such as if the cat's good with other cats, if the cat is good with dogs, and so on. So I think that's a good place to look.
Yes, yeah.
And so this is one of the scratching questions. So this is from somebody who has, I'm admitting someone, this is a question from someone who has a cat who is almost 10 months old. It's her first springtime. When they open their windows, she starts to climb up the screens, which causes damage because her nails start to tear the screens. Cutting her nails doesn't seem to help. They can't open the windows without screens in them because she will climb out and insects will come in. So they have to keep the windows closed, which is pretty uncomfortable. So what can we do to keep her from climbing up the screens?
Okay, so whenever you take away something from a cat, you need to provide an equally appealing or even better alternative for the cat. So typically, if you don't want your cat to do something, you want to deter and redirect at the same time. So for deterring, there are products that cats don't like the feel of, and you can place those products on your screen. An example of this is a product called Sticky Paws. You can stick that into a surface that you don't want your cat to be on. It won't harm your cat. It just doesn't feel good on her paws, so it'll keep her away from that surface. The best part is it's not tied to you. You're not yelling at your cat. You're not using a spray bottle on your cat. Never do that. Your cat will just feel a surface she used to think was appealing. Now it's not going to be so appealing. It's just going to come to the conclusion on her own that it's not such a great place to be. Double-sided tape, think slick, think sticky. These are all surfaces that cats don't like. But if we're going to take that away, we need to give her something else to climb on. So your cat likes to climb. Cats like elevation, cats like height, cats like vertical space. So what you want to do is maybe near the window or next to the window, have a really enticing cat tree, maybe have some shelving that the cat can climb up. You don't have to spend a lot of money. There are products that are very inexpensive that you can just attach to the wall, but give your cat something else to get that feeling of climbing, because that's what your cat wants. And most cats really like being up and like vertical space. So now, your cat's going to come and go to climb up the screen, and she'll say to herself, oh my goodness, this place I used to love to climb suddenly does not look so appealing anymore. But what have we here? What a terrific alternative. Here's a great scratching post, or here's some terrific shelving. And so you get the idea. You want to deter, but provide something else for your cat to climb up at the same time. It won't take too long for your cat to get a yucky feeling from the double-sided tape or the sticky paws on the screens to decide that's not such a great place to climb anymore. And as long as she has a delightful alternative, you'll be fine.
And I think, so there's another, why does the cat scratch and destroy furniture, which is sort of along the same lines that you would put the...
Yes, so yes. What I find most often is people don't provide the correct scratching post for their cats. Another thing I wish Pet Supplies didn't sell is carpet-covered scratching posts. Now, I know people like to buy them because they can choose a color of the carpet that matches the decor of their home, but a carpet-covered post is completely useless from your cat's point of view. The carpet doesn't slough off the dead sheaths from the claws. It doesn't condition the claws. And worse, the cat's claws can get entangled in the loop of the carpet. And once this happens, that cat is never going to use the post again. So for your scratching post, you want a post that is covered with rope or sisal, because this is the texture that's going to do the job. So texture of the post is really important. What else is important? height of the post. Again, many pet supply stores sell these posts that are not very tall. For a post to be effective and for the cat to use it, it needs to be at least 3 feet tall. This is important for the cat to get a full stretch. If the cat has to hunch over or crouch over to use the post, again, she's not going to use it. So you need a rope or sisal wrap post. It needs to be at least 3 feet tall, and make sure the post is sturdy. You know, a lot of these ones that have kind of teeny tiny bases, they wobble when the cat uses it. So again, this won't be very enticing for your cat. Okay, so now I've described the perfect post, but just like when you're selling a house or buying a house, location, location, location. Location is really important. A lot of people like to hide the scratching post or tuck it in a remote corner because, again, they don't want a scratching post in their living room or it doesn't match their furniture. If your cat has to go spelunking on an archaeological hike to use the scratching post, she's not going to use it. She's going to resort to whatever is convenient and whatever is nearby, hence your couch or your furniture. Put the scratching post where you guys all hang out, because that's going to help entice her to use it. So the other thing to look at is, how is your cat scratching? Maybe she's scratching horizontally. So maybe she needs a scratching pad and not a scratching post. So we really need to do a little bit of detective work, make sure we have the right post, see what's going on. And then typically, I do find that a lot of cat behavior clients aren't using the right post, don't have it in a preferred location, and that kind of sends the cat to use the couch or something that's, you know, not so acceptable to us.
Okay, so then we've got a couple of questions about why do they do this? So I'm just going to kind of lump these together, if that's okay.
Yes.
So it's somebody whose cat likes to lick plastic bags, another cat who likes to lick photographs, and then you go to pet your cat and the cat turns and nips you. Does that mean the cat wants to be left alone? How do we know when a cat wants to be touched?
Okay, I'll start with the plastic first. There are 2 main reasons a cat will chew plastic or other substances. And these are general answers. So if somebody wants more specific on these, you know, they can always go to my website, drrachelcatbehavior.com, and submit their question. But in general, cats will chew on plastic for 2 reasons. One is stress and anxiety. You know, think about like people who bite their nails or twirl their hair, right? Plastic is kind of ooey gooey and they can sink their teeth into it. So anxiety and stress is one reason. The other reason is often the cat just isn't getting enough fiber in their diet. So they're seeking these substances or materials that will kind of push the poop through his stomach. So for the stress and anxiety, the remedy for that is to provide your cat with plenty of interactive activity toys. Think of toys that the cat has to accomplish a task, something that he can really, you know, wrap his mind and body around and work to accomplish some type of task. Examples of these are puzzle feeders or toys where the cat has to maybe move a ball around, but you don't have to spend a lot of money. Even a ball in a tissue box can be a little bit of a challenge for a cat. You can even do something like take his regular food, divide it up into several little bowls, place the bowls around the house so your cat has to go on a fun expedition to find his food. Think of things that are going to occupy your cat's body and mind. On the flip side, if it is a dietary need, there is a product for cats called plain pureed pumpkin. It's high in fiber. Cats don't mind the taste, and you can mix a little bit of it into their wet food. Brands I recommend are PetSmart Authority has a brand of plain puree pumpkin that's very good. There's a brand called Waruva, and it's called Pumpkin Patch Up. And Solistics also makes a really nice pumpkin puree. So try those 2 things, you know, provide other activities, try adding fiber in the diet, And the other thing you can do is take some pieces of plastic that he typically likes to chew on, coat them with a bitter anti-chew product, place them about your apartment. When he goes to chew, it's not going to taste so great. Again, it's not tied to you. He's going to decide on his own that the plastic is no longer so great. So that's another option as well. What was the second thing they liked? Oh, photographs. There's probably something in that material. Again, it might be a fiber thing. That's something that you can also coat with a bit, take the photographs, coat them with a product, place them around your floor, let the cat come to those photographs, and he'll be like, ew, I don't like those anymore. And you can use interactive activity toys to redirect from that as well. I think the last question was they're petting the cat and the cat bites them.
And yeah, and there's another one about why would my cat suddenly bite or scratch me? No warning, just jump up and bite and then run off. I can
Okay.
picture that.
So let's talk about the petting aggression. This is something that usually takes the cat owner by surprise because we think we're enjoying this lovely session with our cat and we're doing something that should be pleasurable and we're petting our cat, and then seemingly out of nowhere, your cat turns around and bites you. And although you think your cat is bad for biting you, your cat's probably feeling scared and overwhelmed because she was sending you signals that she's had enough. We weren't able to read those signals. And then in your cat's mind, she now has no other option but to turn around and bite you. So cats are really very good communicators. So if you're petting a cat, look and see, is the tail twitching? Is she glancing at your hand? Does her body seem to be tensing up? But even if you can't read her signals, there are other things you can do to avoid petting aggression. And this is a kind of a common problem in cats. They get overstimulated. So typically, most people can get a handle on how long the cat will allow petting before the bite happens. So start paying attention to that. If your cat typically lets her pet her 2 minutes before she bites, then I want you to always stop the petting sessions at 30 seconds. Stay beneath her threshold. So this way you always leave the cat in a contented state, or maybe even wanting more, rather than getting to that point of overstimulation. So figure out how long the cat is okay before she turns around and bites, and always stay well below that. So if your cat lets her pet her for 2 minutes, stop it like 30 to 45 seconds. If she only lets you pet her for 1 minute, then make sure you stop like after 20 seconds. Stay below that threshold. The other thing you can do is do it by the stroke. If you could typically pet her 5 strokes before she turns around and bites you, then just do 2 strokes and stop. Now, eventually, she's going to see that you understand her. And the more she sees you understand her and are communicating with her, the better things are going to be. And then you can maybe even try to lengthen those sessions. So once you get her, to tolerate that less time of petting, and she does it fine without turning around and biting you, you can then try gradually adding on a few seconds each session. But the main thing is to figure out where she sort of crosses that line and always stay below that line. I find typically when cats bite or scratch, we think it's out of nowhere, but usually there's always a reason. So cat behavior never happens in a vacuum. Now, maybe you have another cat in the household. I can be petting that cat and she's happy with me, but out of the corner of the eye, she might see Fluffy coming onto her territory or eating her food. And this is something called redirected aggression. She can't get to the source of her agitation. So her good kitty judgment goes right out the window and she bites or scratches you. So sometimes, pay attention to what's going on in the environment. There might be more going on than you realize, maybe subtle signals or, posturing that you might be missing. So a lot of times we need to tune in. I mean, cats are pretty good communicators with their mind and their body. So if we take our time to see what they're telling us and listen to what they're telling us, we can usually avoid those types of incidents.
Okay, and we've got a couple on the play that I'm going to group together. So one is, what do you think about a battery-operated squishy fish? And then another one is a cat who's under 1 year old, loves it when we toss toy mice and small balls. She gets into the crouching position as if she wants to hunt, and she may run from one end of the room to another, but she rarely actually chases them or grabs them with her teeth. What type of play is she seeking besides just watching the toy go by? How can we engage her more?
So I'm a big fan of the fishing pole type toy for several reasons. First, when you use a fishing pole type toy, you, the human, are part of the game. So all the happiness the cat is getting with the captures and all the good times the cat is having with the play, you're part of it. It's all associated with you. So using a fishing pole type toy is actually a very powerful way to create a cat-human bond. So I'm a big fan of the fishing pole type toy. What was the first cat question? What was the first one?
Battery
Sorry,
operated.
I'm old.
I think we all are, but anyhow, battery operated squishy.
Oh,
fish.
squishy fish. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, anything that moves in an enticing manner and allows your cat to catch it, I think all those types of interactive activity toys are terrific. Now, although I'm a huge proponent of fishing pole type toys, the reality is you can't always be playing with your cat. And it's something that, right, we can't just always be there using a fishing pole type toy. So I do like people to do a few sessions of that type of play when they can, but I also like providing stimulating activities and interactive activities, when you're not home, when you're sleeping, when you're away, because this keeps a cat interested. It releases tension, it releases anxiety. If you have a cat who has separation anxiety, all those types of toys are great. So the squishy fishy toy that I think it moves around and the cats can pounce on it, that's great. Battery operated toys are fun for a cat because solo toys, if you throw them on the floor, the cat has to bat the toy herself and then chase the toy herself. So she's doing all the work just to get a little bit of play. But those battery operated toys are really great, when you're not home to provide for your cat. And the one who was running around chasing the toys, but not really sinking her teeth into it. I mean, what you could do is try to entice her towards the toy and maybe use a little treat, because that will provide a realistic play experience for your cat. So once you sort of get the cat used to the idea that she's going to play capture and then she can eat her kill, you're going to tap into the cat's more natural instinct and the cat's more natural cycle. So get into the habit of doing that. It's not going to happen overnight, but once she makes that connection, I think she'll enjoy play a lot more.
Great. And so these are sort of linked in multi-cat. So the first one is a little longer. They recently adopted a new cat, a 9-month-old kitten to add to our family, which includes a 6-year-old cat. They've done slow introductions, graduated to supervised visits. However, the resident cat seems to be fixated on the new cat and will stalk chase the kitten without hissing or other aggressive behaviors. Is this play? If not, how do we address this behavior? And then the other one is, so you have a multi-cat household, how to feed cats with different diets within that household.
I'll start with that one first. That's a difficult one because, usually, like, say if you have an overweight cat and she has to be on a diet, she's going to want to eat that other cat's food because she's on a diet and wants the more delicious food. I mean, sometimes you just have to feed them in separate rooms and then pick up the food. If you have an older chubby cat, you could maybe feed the younger, more spry cat on an elevated area that that cat can't get to. So there's little tricks that you might have to do. One of the easiest things to do, it's a little more expensive, but it does work, is if your cat is microchipped, there are cat dispensing food bowls that operate via the cat's microchip. So they're covered and it will only open for the cat whose microchip matches what's in that feeding dispenser. And that's a foolproof way to make sure that the right cat gets the right food. But I have had to feed my cats in different rooms with the door closed, because of varying diets, because we can't just say to our cats, don't eat Fluffy's food. So it can be a little bit of a balancing act. Absolutely. For the person who adopted a new cat and the resident cat's stalking and chasing and pouncing, that doesn't sound like play to me. I'm assuming that the new cat is probably not enjoying it all that much. So what I usually suggest in this matter is do what I call a complete reintroduction. And I'm just going to bullet point it now, but that questionnaire can definitely submit on my website, drrachelcatbehavior.com, and I'll go through it more thoroughly to her particular situation. But in general, if you have cats, if you have feuding felines, you really need to stop that destructive cycle of aggression because often they can't get out of it themselves. The best thing to do is to reintroduce the cats almost as if they haven't met each other before. What I like to do is really bring it down to ground zero and then extremely slowly and gradually re-enter different smells and scents and sight to the arena. So I would suggest for the new cat should go back into the sanctuary room. And I would start off with very gentle scent swapping, soil swapping, let the cats calm down. A really good idea is maybe keep a large shirt or smock in that sanctuary room. So when you go in with the newcomer, you put on the big shirt and then you take it off when you come back out to your resident cat. This helps to prevent the resident cat from getting overwhelmed by all of these new cat smells. So you really want to calm everybody down, then start adding things in bit by bit. And that's really important for the sense of safety and security of both cats. And then I go through a process where I use the door to gently introduce the cats, where I start off with the food is very far away. I only open up the door a crack. I let them see each other a little bit as they eat and then close the door. And very gradually, incrementally, I'll move those bowls closer, open the door wider, and lengthen the feeding sessions. And these are all ways that you can basically do a process of desensitization. And desensitization is a really fancy way of saying we're going to get the cats used to each other. We present things so gradually, so slowly, and so incrementally that we decrease the fear and anxiety and stress associated with bringing a new cat into the household. And I can walk this person through it, in more detail, but I do find it's best to walk it back, start fresh, and really make sure we, build that foundation and get the cats to tolerate each other.
Okay, so we've got just, how about catnip and grass for an indoor cat?
Thumbs up. I'm a fan of catnip and cat grass. I think it's a great idea. I have very strong feelings about keeping your cats indoors. I think all cats should be indoor cats, except for feral cats who live in colonies, but all tame, domesticated cats. I really am a proponent of indoor living, and I think catnip and cat grass are terrific options for your cats. They like it, they have fun, it's good with me.
Okay, we've got a few more. This is sort of, I think, sort of related, that you walk away from the cats when if a person walks away from the cat while petting them, I guess they're done petting them and they walk away, and then the cat reaches out with a paw to get us to come back. and the cats bite to get attention.
So is the cat biting or just reaching out with the paw?
Well, these are from two different people. So,
Oh, I mean, anything benign, I'm not worried about, sometimes I want more attention too, and I'll make that known. So, if nobody's getting hurt, if there's nothing aggressive, I'm okay with that. We don't want a cat to bite. We don't want a cat to scratch. So then we want to learn kind of distraction and redirection techniques and, helping our cats not to feel overstimulated. But if a cat simply wants more, I think that's okay. And just as if you had a toddler or a child at home, you can decide 5 more minutes, or you can say that's enough. And you can always offer that cat who wants more something to redirect that cat, like a puzzle feeder or an interactive toy or a squishy floppy fish or things like that. You can always redirect your cat to something else that's positive, because cats find a lot of things positive besides just being pet or being touched. They like to play, they like to think, they like to hunt. So we can always redirect.
great. And I'm just going to point out that I have put the link to buy the book in the chat. If for some reason you're having difficulty with that, you can email the library, and we can also, email the link to you from there. But again, all those proceeds are going to benefit the Little Guild in West Cornwall. So the last few questions are, I guess this is a question about, does this behavior mean that the cat likes to be the prey? She runs away from the ball and wants me to chase her. And then if my cat likes to be where the pride is, does this mean a dominant cat would be a good cat companion for her?
So for the cat who likes to be chased, just like people, there's one in every crowd, right? So, go with the flow. If your cat best. If she's enjoying herself, look at her body language. If she's not afraid, if her ears are up and forward and erect, her tail's not lashing back and forth, her body's not tense, you can tell if she's enjoying the game and that's what your cat likes. It's unusual, but it's okay. Like I said, just like people, there's always that person who goes against the grain or, marches to a beat of a different drummer and so forth. So that's fine. If that's something your cat is enjoying and you're spending time with your cat, which is the most important thing, that's okay. And then the other one, the cat likes to be with, what was the second? Likes to be with other cats?
Does it mean a dominant cat would be a good cat companion for her? I'm not exactly sure on that one, but.
So, if you're basically, if you have cats that are more laid back or cats who are more submissive, if you have a multi-tier cat tree and you have a cat who tends to like to be on the bottom tier, a cat like that would probably be okay with a more dominant cat. If you have a cat who is always going to the top of the cat tree and, this cat rules the roost, that cat may not be great with another dominant cat. So matching your cat's personalities is really important.
Okay, and we had a couple of questions on declawing.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Next question. Now,
okay. Yeah.
So I'm 100% against declawing. It's torture. I know the word sounds rather innocuous. It sounds like they kind of like just taking off the claw, but the reality is that they chop the bone off at the knuckle. And most cats who are declawed have a lot of pain for the rest of their lives. They have nerve pain. Invariably, when I talk about cats who aren't using the litter boxes, when nothing's working, it's often because the cat is declawed. So in the litter, cats are very tactile creatures. Their paws are sensitive anyway, and declawed cats often have paws that hurt. And so the litter actually hurts their paws. The other thing is a lot of declawed cats bite because you've now taken away their main line of defense. So they feel very vulnerable. So they're more apt to bite a lot. think of using a seatbelt or wearing a helmet. We may not always need it, right? We're not always getting into car accidents, or if we're riding a bike, we're not always flipping over, but we know we have those things there as protection. So it reassures us. When your cat doesn't have that protection, she doesn't know she has that, she doesn't feel sure, they look for other ways to protect themselves. Most often, I find that those really bitey cats are declawed cats. A lot of cats who won't use their litter boxes are declawed cats, but in general, they just don't, they have pain throughout their lives. So no to declawing. As I think I started off with a scratching post question, it is very easy to get your cat to use a scratching post or a scratching pad. Often the reason they aren't is because we buy the wrong products. But if we buy the correct products and we supply our cats with what they need to do the job, your cat can be happy with her claws, and you can be happy with your cat using the scratching poster pad.
Great. So just a few more. We're getting on towards 8 o'clock. These are food questions. So this person has a 3-year-old cat who's food aggressive. He gets at least 200 calories a day of high quality wet food, yet he begs for food constantly. They have to lock up all the food at all times, people food even. He was found as a stray, fostered with 2 Pomeranians, and they say help. And then another food question: is it okay for my cat to only eat dry food? The newcomer totally ignores wet food and likes only a certain type of treat.
Okay, so let's start off with the food aggression first. I have a lot of tricks to help cat owners with cats who always want to eat. And the first trick is a product called Bonito Flakes. It's dried tuna. It's extremely low in calories. You can add a lot of water to this product and put it out for your cat. It gives off the scent of fish. It feels to your cat like he's eating. He can go and nibble and sip on it whenever he wants, but it's really like eating flavored water. So Bonito Flakes is one of my favorite tricks for tricking a cat into thinking he's eating. The other thing is, any type of dried soup that, just add water to that, like a chicken broth is another great way to let your cat think he's eating when he's really not. A third idea is to add water to the wet food. So the extra water is going to fill up the cat and make him feel more full than he really is. And going back to the pumpkin, that's another great thing to add into the wet food too, because it will expand in the cat's belly and make him feel more full than he really is. But my number one favorite trick for getting food aggressive cats to feel like they're eating all the time when they're really not is the Bonito Flakes, because of the very fishy smell. And it has like 1 calorie. It's really a terrific product for cats who are obsessed with food or food aggressive. The other one about the dry food. So, popular wisdom is that you want to feed your cats wet food. The water content is good for the cats. Having said that, we all know cats are really, really picky. The cat doesn't want to eat something, he's not going to eat it. If the cat's only going to eat dry food, go ahead and feed your cat the dry food. You can sprinkle a little bit of water on the dry food. The dry food will absorb the water, but the cat will get a little more water content, but still feel like he's eating his dry food.
Okay, and I think one last question is, when you go away, is it better to board your cat or have someone come into the home?
Definitely to have somebody come into the home. Your cat will feel much better in his own familiar smells, his own sounds, his own surroundings, and your sense will be there too. So, it's much better to have a cat sitter or a trusted friend or relative come into the home, when you go away. And, make sure you really check references if you're hiring a pet sitter. Be very careful with fully vetting that person, get references, really check them out, because there are some crazy people out there. But yes, to have a trusted person come in and let the cat stay in her own home where she knows everything is much better for the cat. You know, being in a strange place with other animals, other sounds, other smells, other people is extremely stressful for a cat. And stress is a cat's worst enemy. So try to keep your cat's life as easy as possible in that respect.
Okay. Well, I think that is about it. We've had a lot of compliments on your talk. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. Really appreciate it. And just for everybody who's joined us, this is recorded and it will be up on the Scoville Library YouTube channel. So if you want to pass this on to friends that you know who will benefit from this, which I think anybody with a cat in their home will definitely benefit. And just a reminder about purchasing the book. We've had some plugs for the book, people who have read it. I am going to buy a copy for the library, so you'll be able to check it out there as well. And maybe you would just like to give your website again before we sign off, so people know how to get in touch with you.
Sure. So my website is drrachelcatbehavior.com, and it's DRRACHEL catbehavior.com. Anybody, if I didn't get to your question or you want more specifics, there is a submission form. You can write out your question and I answer every question within 24 to 48 hours. And again, like I said, 100% of the proceeds from my book, I am donating to the Little Guild Animal Shelter between now and next Wednesday. So you can feel great about, when I wrote this book, my idea was to use it as a fundraising vehicle for cat shelters and cats. So whenever I do a library talk, I always ask the library director, the person who's doing the talk, is there a nearby shelter who could benefit from, you know, some fundraising? So buy the book, you'll be doing a great thing, and we'll be supporting the Little Guild Animal Shelter, which is a wonderful nonprofit located near you guys.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you again. That was really wonderful. Good night, everybody. And hopefully the storm has passed you by, and come into the library and borrow the book if you're not able to buy it. So thanks again and good night.
Thank you.
Bye.